Hey guys, it's Scarlett here with Arcane Alchemy. I hope you all are doing well today. So if you are new to my channel, I post weekly videos about topics like tarot, paganism, and spirituality. And today we're going to be talking a bit about paganism. And I did a video not too long ago that you guys seem to really enjoy, and it was titled Paganism, Wicca, and Witchcraft, What's the Difference? So today I kind of wanted to deconstruct two different versions of paganism. And I wanted to talk about Neo-Paganism versus Pagan Reconstructionism. So while they might share the term pagan and might be under that wider umbrella concept of paganism, they both represent two kind of very different ways of connecting with paganism. So as I mentioned, the term pagan can basically be this large umbrella term that refers to a lot of different nature-based religions and spiritual systems. And in the dictionary, the term pagan just means a person holding a religious belief other than those of the main world religions. So nowadays, when you say pagan, you're most likely referring to someone who is not of the Abrahamic religions, and then you're also probably referring to someone where their religious beliefs or their spiritual traditions incorporate nature in a very specific way. So let's start with Neo-Paganism and how you attempt to define Neo-Paganism. And this is, of course, something very difficult to do because Neo-Paganism, like paganism itself, is kind of a large umbrella term. And when you think about Neo-Paganism, it just means new paganism. And it really includes a wide variety of New Age beliefs. And that might also include things like Wicca or Druidism. So it really does kind of contain a lot of different facets when you're thinking about Neo-Paganism. So prior to around 1960, a lot of these neo-pagan ideas were kind of more underground and almost viewed as countercultural. However, as these New Age beliefs and even kind of the wider hippie movement began to spread, certain things like neo-paganism and one of the larger branches of neo-paganism, Wicca, began to increase and expand. So when you think about neo-paganism, it really takes its inspiration from ancient history, though it doesn't try to specifically and accurately reproduce ancient customs and traditions. It instead is really trying to just kind of use it as an inspiration. So they're not going to be replicating these ceremonies and these traditions from pre-Christian Europe or other pre-Christian societies. Instead, they're more like inspired by them. Now, many neo-pagans do center their belief around a god and a goddess. And these two deities might also be viewed through the lens of multiple gods and goddesses. And you often see this when you're thinking about different pantheons. Some pagans might have a special interest in a particular culture's pantheon, like they might use the Roman or the Greek gods to connect with deity. So you might have someone who considers the god and the goddess kind of their main kind of core aspect of divinity, but they reach that aspect through a particular pantheon or certain gods or goddesses. And then you have some that might not even look at god and goddess as separate entities, but more as kind of a divine spirit or a divine light. So there are definitely a lot of variations within neo-paganism, and neo-paganism is very relativistic, and that means that truth is subject to each person's individual reality. And what this does is it really allows for a kind of more personalized, customized approach to your own spiritual beliefs as well as your morality. So there's really kind of a wide kind of opportunity for you, if you are a neo-pagan, to look and be inspired by other traditions, other pre-Christian societies, and kind of pick and choose what you feel best fits in with your own specific spiritual journey. And another thing about neo-pagans, I would say that as a whole, while they do have very diverse views, often I find that neo-pagans are very inclusive to others. So they're very inclusive to the LGBTQ community. They're not going to have strict ideas about, oh, you can't study and work with Celtic deities if you're not of that ancestry. So I do find that it is a very kind of open and welcoming community as a whole. So that's how I would describe neo-pagans. And then of course do take this with a grain of salt, because like I said, neo-paganism is such a large umbrella term, and it really comprises a lot of different beliefs and ideas. So moving on to Pagan Reconstructionism, or you might also hear it referred to as polytheistic Reconstructionism. So that really emerged in the late 1960s, though it didn't really start gaining a lot of momentum until the 90s. So Pagan Reconstructionism is really kind of a newer movement than neo-paganism. And what Pagan Reconstructionism attempts to do is it wants to re-establish historical polytheistic religions in the world. So this is in contrast to neo-pagan movements like Wicca. Wicca isn't really trying to specifically re-establish historical religions within the modern world. So in neo-paganism, one might really kind of combine certain pre-Christian traditions and beliefs from a variety of different cultures. And it might even kind of create this wider pan-European style of paganism. And this really does not occur when you think about Pagan Reconstructionism. Pagan Reconstructionists usually focus on one specific culture, such as Norse paganism, or Asatru it's also referred to as. So for example, with Pagan Reconstructionism, if you wanted to follow Asatru, you would be focusing on researching the traditions and customs that come from that specific culture, and then try to recreate those to the best of your ability within modern society. And these traditions and customs, these are coming from various fields such as literary research from the time period, anthropology, religious history, even like political history of the time, archaeology, even forensic anthropology. So you can think of Pagan Reconstructionists as you kind of also have to be a bit of a historian in a way, because your goal is to recreate what has occurred before. You are trying to rebuild and reestablish these ancient traditions in the modern world. And I would say that some people who are Pagan Reconstructionists don't necessarily like even the term pagan. So that's a bit controversial too, and some Reconstructionists kind of take issue with the term pagan or neo-pagan, as it's kind of viewing the word pagan as a pejorative term which was used by past institutions attempting to destroy their culture and their spiritual beliefs. So one of the things that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to Pagan Reconstructionism is the concept of ethnicity and identity when it comes to the beliefs of the culture that you are trying to recreate. So some people believe that a large part of Pagan Reconstructionism is venerating your ancestors, and thus you should be following the spiritual path of your ancestors. So that means that if your ancestry, so for example, my ancestry comes from Denmark, so I should be looking towards Norse paganism specifically and focusing on those deities and those traditions. However, there are others that say this concept of ancestor worship and ethnicity isn't as important to Pagan Reconstructionism. It's just a passion for the spiritual system and a passion for bringing it to life again. So there is a bit of a debate within Pagan Reconstructionist community, and that even boils over into politics, and I won't get into all of that. I went on a rant about that a while ago. I'll link that video in the description below, and if you want a good laugh, you should read some of those comments on that video. But yeah, so Pagan Reconstructionism, I think, is going through a bit of a tough time right now because there is a lot of tension within the community itself on how open it wants to be. And it's up to you if you are thinking about becoming a pagan or following the pagan path, which venue you want to kind of go down. And that's not to say that you can't start as a neo-pagan and become a pagan reconstructionist later, or vice versa, but they are kind of two different paths, which is why I wanted to make this video, so that I could provide a bit of an understanding on how they differ. Personally, I started as a neo-pagan as I started learning about Wicca when I was a young teen, and I do still hold a lot of Wiccan beliefs. For example, I do still celebrate the 8 Sabbats. I find a lot of meaning in celebrating the Sabbats and the change of the wheel of the year. Though at the same time, I am a huge history nerd. I studied art history in college, so the concept of Pagan Reconstructionism is also immensely appealing to me because I love the concept of really getting in depth and trying to understand how these ancient cultures and how the spiritual systems they created, how they thrived, and the concept of bringing these ancient traditions into the modern world, I do find immensely appealing as well. So me, myself, I am a bit torn between them too at the moment. And one of the great things about the pagan path is that it does allow you for your own space to kind of follow your own journey and see where it leads. So I would be really interested to hear about your opinions on this topic. I would love to hear if you consider yourself a neo-pagan or a pagan reconstructionist, or if you just like to refer to yourself as pagan. And that's what I do. I tend to just refer to myself as pagan. And I'd love to hear what path you go down and what kind of led you down that path. And I hope you really enjoyed this video today. Again, if you are new to my channel and you are interested in these topics, do please take a moment to subscribe down below. And a reminder that you do still have some time to sign up for my February giveaway. If you are interested, I will be giving away 5 different tarot and oracle decks. So I will put the link down in the description down below in case you are interested in signing up for that. So, signing off for now, and I will see you all next week. Bye.